maybe I'm dead inside, but let me cook, and then if it burns, nime burn. So I watched the BBC documentary about Blood Parliament. I think that's the title, Blood Parliament, today in the morning. Yeah, I watched it at around 8 a.m. as I was having my tea in the morning. And yes, there are things that are apparent that you cannot deny as Kenyans. Lives are lost. It was an unfortunate thing. It did not have to happen, though it happened. Yes, it's true that the political class, they have almost reintroduced segregation back into the system. That they sell themselves as better, richer, mightier, and worthy of opportunity and luxury, and their basic, maybe all their needs and wants met, and they present themselves more of as they are more important human beings than the rest of us. Which those things are true. That indeed what happened during the Gen Z demonstrations was atrocious, it was sad, and I am among the people who keep saying that lives do not have to be lost for things to change. But at the same time, the way the BBC represented it, it just does not sit well with my spirit. Because I am someone who reads history and I understand how trends are. From the little, I do not pretend to understand everything. But that is exactly how the Western media always tailors everything that they put out about Africa. They present it in the worst light possible. Because even as you're watching through the documentary, they seem to imply that those police officers that shot at those people, and unfortunately they lost their lives, that they were very categorical that they were going to kill people. That they went out there with the intention that people would end up being unalived. Which is not true. Because if you have ever interacted with the disciplined forces, you'll understand that most of the time, when they're in operation, it's more of muscle memory. Because like during the demonstrations, I actually attended a few, and then after that I was in Nairobi and the environment. Like all the police officers were deployed, and there was a lot of looting, there was a lot of people like insecurity, and a lot of just a sense of being unsafe. So everywhere police were deployed to the point of they were overstretched. Because as much as we always complain that we don't have enough doctors, we don't have enough police officers in this country. If any, and they were deployed all over the country. And according to the military, according to our constitution, the military is supposed to be deployed domestically at times when critical infrastructure is threatened. On that day, the parliament is critical infrastructure, the state house is critical infrastructure. If they had gone much to power stations, the military would have been deployed there. The Supreme Court is critical infrastructure. So at the event that the police officers are stretched to the max of what they can handle, then they deploy critical KDF to support, to aid. And the structure of disciplined forces is always they receive their orders from the top going downwards. And what they're always supposed to do is de-escalate situations that are escalating. So it's unfair to try to insinuate that they were intentionally trying to kill people. And it's unfair to try and pit us against a certain group of people, whether to the political class or the police force or the disciplined forces. Because at the end of the day, that is a tactic that they use every single time when they're trying to topple a regime. That they would pit the masses against the political class, or the masses against the army, or the masses against the Kenya police or something. And it's always with something that raises a lot of emotion. Because even when you watch through the documentary, you realize that even how they've structured it, the sounds, they are to trigger emotional reactions rather than logical reactions. So it's true, people, it was unnecessary for people to lose their lives, to be injured, to be incapacitated. It was not necessary. I am one of the people who lauds the step of the youth to step out there and be counted and to fight for something that matters. Because at the end of the day, we are the people. But it should never be something that then the Western media or whoever it is that is funding them, because such a project was funded, that was definitely funded. And if you go and look through the Africa Eye page on BBC, you realize that most of their projects, they don't garner as many views as they have garnered this time. So that should tell you that Kenya is the gate into Africa. Kenya has always been the gate into the sub-Saharan Africa. And what happens when you take down the gates? Then people can come in and go out as they please. And that has been intention in the last few years, that they want to disorganize Kenya. I know we as Kenyans will never get to the point where we are fighting against one another. I know that. But they're trying to destabilize us, destabilize our economy, put us in a state of fear and panic, and send us into survival mode so that they can operate freely in the sub-Saharan Africa and do whatever they want to do here, whether it's to steal and plunder, whether it's to drive their insidious agendas, whether it's to make sure that as the world is winning and wading through whatever nonsense of quagmire of mess that they have been creating, that Africa remains under their feet. So I'm not trying to disqualify the sacrifices and the efforts of the people. I'm trying to say that the intention should never be to divide us. We should never look at anything and it drives us to the point where we are so angry that we are wishing death on someone. Because at the end of the day, every single Kenyan life is worth the same value. The police officers, they're just doing their job. And can you imagine deploying 200 people to control and manage a mass of 100,000? That in itself drives panic into someone. But they stood there. And I'm sure all of them in the evening when they went home, one of the things that they thanked God for is that they did not end up injured or dead. Because some of them did. So no life is more important than the other. And finally, the political class should know how to be better and to do better. Because so far they have been trying to rub their wealth, their opulence, their excesses in our faces. And that is making us even more angry. Because why would you have a motorcade of 100 cars when you're driving through a town where 50% of those people have slept hungry during that week? Why would you be walking around in shoes worth 500,000 shillings when there are children who are sleeping hungry, who are not going to school, who cannot access medical care? So truly there are reforms that need to happen in this country. But we are not going to achieve it by being angry at one another. We are not going to achieve it by hating one another and wishing death on one another. It's not going to happen like that. Because at the end of the day, we will be fighting ourselves if we at any point think that we are the enemy. We'll be fighting ourselves. So if there's anything to be changed, which there is a lot to be changed, we need to do it together and not as opposing forces. We're not going to achieve anything that will last if we are fighting against one another. You going on the internet and speaking against fellow Kenyans is not going to help our cause. It's just going to make life worse for all of us. And it's going to leave us in a very vulnerable position, especially because very soon we are going into another world war. There's a lot of mess that is coming in Eastern Europe. There's a lot of mess that is coming in the Middle East. There's a lot of messiness going on all over the world. And we owe it to ourselves to stand and remain as a country that has always been the safe haven for most of sub-Saharan Africa. Our stability determines the stability of the entire region. Our safety is an extension of the safety of the entire Eastern Africa region all the way to the south. So we must stand and we must protect this country. And we must do it together. Let's heal. It's hard, but let's heal and move on and do better.